Marinakis has spoken, and boy has he said some interesting things. Welcome to your Forest News. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. Coming up, we'll be talking through everything Marinakis has said in his interview with the Daily Mail today. It'll be from PSR to the City Ground to Gary Neville, to players that we signed that I didn't know about. If you're enjoying the content, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And make sure if you want to get your beachwear or any of these wonderful Forest fully licensed items, the link's pinned in the comments. Use code FFTV15 for 15% off your basket from FOCO. Okay, let's jump into this and let's start with the big one, which is the City Ground. Now, as it says here, Marinakis wants to leave. He wants us to move from the City Ground, and that's pretty much explicitly been said in the article. Let me quote it to you. Marinakis on Nottingham Forest leaving the City Ground, saying it will change history in years to come for the region and the team, for our supporters. It will be hard to leave the City Ground, but in an age when revenue streams dictate success on the pitch, there's no doubt moving to a bigger facility will set the club on the right path. I think that's pretty much as explicit as it gets, that is the direction of travel he wants to go down. And that's no doubt going to trigger a lot of emotion and a lot of thoughts and a lot of pros and cons for it. I don't like this approach, as I said in the video this morning. Instead of saying we want to move, it's important for us, I want to see a proposal and a plan on the pros and cons. That's what it needs to be done. There needs to be some discussions with fans, with supporter groups, etc., and everything like that. But to throw that bombshell, boom, pull the pin out the grenade, I think it's as explicit as it comes. Now, my gut feeling still is that Tom Cartledge is the driving force behind this move. That Marinakis, I mean, look, before Tom was there, the talk was about redeveloping the Peter Taylor stand, the shipping containers. Oh, by the way, those shipping containers are coming back next season. It's going to cost us, I believe, 7 million to put those containers either end of the Trent's end, and they're going to house 180 viewers. Is that it? I don't know. We know they're going to be corporate shipping stands, but 180, my God. I sometimes I don't get it. Anyway, so that's what he said on the City Ground. So his intentions are clear that he wants to leave. He then spoke a lot about PSR, and I'm just going to give you a couple of quotes. So he says, I drove Forest back to the Premier League after 23 years and had to invest in order to create a competitive and sustainable club. I fully agree with that. He was the driving force. Yes, Cooper played his part as well, but he was bankrolled by Marinakis. But what's interesting is the next quote here. We did not obscure our finances or seek to inflate our revenues. We were open and fair. I feel like he's indirectly having a pop at a certain 115 club. I really do with that, and I like it. Our only problem is that we failed to complete the sale of a key player in Brennan Johnson until a few weeks later than needed to for technical compliance. This was a technical breach, not a substantial breach. The club made the sale for the right value, almost exactly as per our strategy, but later than needed for the PSR deadline. So in essence, what Marinakis is saying is, let's call it a tax return, a self-assessment. They were going to pay, they planned to pay, but they sent the payment a little late. And when you break it down like that into his logic, kind of does make a little bit of sense. Like if you were late with your tax returns, you get fined. There isn't a point deduction on your tax return. So I get what he's saying there. And it tells you as well that I think they knowingly breached it, knowing they were going to be late. But they thought it would be a slap on the wrist. Here's a couple of mil penalty for being late on the PSR. So, interesting one there. What do you guys think about what Marinakis had to say on that one? Give me your thoughts down below. Now, of course, the infamous tweet came up and Marinakis told the reporter he was right to ask about that. But let me give you some quotes about the whole thing with Gary Neville. And what we found out from this is there is definitely legal action going on between Nottingham Forest, Sky, and technically Gary Neville. So the quote here from Marinakis on Neville was, "We made this announcement because we tried to protect, and then there is a big fuss. But that was made from Sky Sports and specific guys. I can bring you 100 examples of times when they exaggerated, didn't say the truth, and humiliated people. I need to be careful because our lawyers have already been in contact with Sky regarding Neville, and this is not over." Oh, another pin pulled out of the hand grenade. I don't know where he's going with this one. I get it. He has to protect the integrity and the reputation of the club. Being called mafia gang or whatever it was that Gary Neville said cannot go unpunished. And I don't know where this ends up. For me, still personally, I think Gary Neville will have to apologize in a letter or something for his comments. But he's so stuck up his own ass, I think his pride will get in the way of doing something like that. But at the same time, Forest falling out with Sky, I don't know where I sit with it, in all honesty. At the end of the day, we need that Sky revenue. Yes, they have to pay us come what may, but we need matches selected for viewing and growth of Forest, etc. I don't know. I don't want this one to go too far. If Neville swallows his pride and apologizes, I'd be all right, and let's just move on from that. But there's definitely legal proceedings going on, as we told you about 2 weeks ago about that. Now, on the strategy for Nottingham Forest, this again I found very interesting because it's something we told you off the back of the PSR document that came out from the first hearing about Forest strategy, about how they're looking to make income and revenue going forward. So what Marinakis said here, he says, Murillo, Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, Danilo, Nico Williams, Taiwo, Dominguez, Sangare, Omar Bamadeli. We also signed Nelson Abbey for Olympiacos. I didn't even know that one. Nelson Abbey is the Reading player who went to Olympiacos, but apparently there is links about potentially getting him to Forest, according to this. He then goes on to say, they are all young, talented players that have great value that will ensure the club assets go higher and higher. The reality is this was a wise decision, a clever decision, and we see the benefit. So a couple of things to unpack from that. This tells you that Marinakis is somewhat satisfied with the recruitment policy at Nottingham Forest. And in a way, I'm not against it either. Look, I've been quite a keen supporter of how we've done our business. Yes, you could argue it's to the extreme, buying too many players and what have you, and having some flops in there. But he is right in mentioning those gems that have emerged, likes of Murillo, Morgan Gibbs-White, etc. And what he's saying here, if you read between the lines, is very similar to what the document said, that Forest are buying these players almost to showcase them in front of the TV cameras, in front of the Premier League. That, say with a Danilo that we bought for whatever it was, I don't know, call it 12 million. Now that he's improving, now that he has Premier League experience, his value's probably doubled over the last 12 months. Murillo, 11 million. His value is going to be currently at least 40 or 50 million. Morgan Gibbs-White bought in for 25 up front and then add-ons that could get it to 40 million. Forest are now tagging him at about 70 to 80 million pounds of value. So this is going to be Forest's strategy for the next few years, that they will get the bigger income coming through from the sales of players. Now, do I agree with that? Not really. I want to keep our best talent. I think we will evolve and grow better as a club if we are having those talented players in a Forest shirt for at least a few years. Because what you could end up doing is ending up in that Brighton model or the Southampton model. And for Brighton, yes, it's worked over recent years, but potentially what it will end up happening is they will run out of these gems that come through the supply chain and end up doing what happened to Southampton and getting relegated. Look at all the players that Southampton sold over the years. You had Mane, Virgil van Dijk, and there's a huge list from them. eventually that conveyor belt runs out and you end up getting relegated. So although I see what he's saying in terms of a revenue strategy, I still feel you're better off served keeping some of those players. What I personally would do is get rid of all of the deadwood in that squad, generate 50-60 million pounds, which means you could then keep the likes of Murillo or a Morgan Gibbs-White and then build the team around them. Then maybe unearth another couple of gems from South America. So I think I get what he's saying. I don't fully agree with it, but then again, we don't get to see the finances of it. Look, there's so many interesting things in that article. The personality of Marinakis came across as well in it. He definitely loves Nottingham Forest. He talked about the history of the club, the players, how he was aware of Forest from the age of 15, how he wanted to buy a big and historic club with a big fan base. And that's why he wanted Nottingham Forest. And then you see his personal side as well. Here's a football top table. Marinakis, anytime you're up for a game, I will destroy you on that. Which he won. He played the reporter and beat him 5-3, I think, on that. Now, I'm sure the reporter wasn't going to try and beat the Greek father. But anyway, there's a lot. You can see football runs deep in his blood. Passion runs deep in his blood. He talks about as well when he had to storm onto the pitch. Marinakis said in the Forest-Liverpool match, "I didn't storm onto the pitch to confront the ref. All this was in the imagination of Sky and the others that said it. I was there to show my unity with the team, as I have done many times in the past after a terrible refereeing decision." And again, I don't mind that. How many clubs have absent owners? Look just across the Premier League. How many clubs, how many non-Forest fans can name Marinakis? Loads of them can, because of everyone sees his passion and everything. But could you guys name, I don't know, the Bournemouth owner? Could you name the Brighton owner? Do you know what I mean? It's like he's a name becoming synonymous with Forest and football because he is there and he is present. He talks about how he's been to over 100 matches, home and away. He's almost a true fan according to those guys. So it's good to see that, and I like the passion and what he brings. But I think the takeaway from this article is going to be about the City ground. And the timing of it is interesting, isn't it? There's one game left at Burnley, which is an away game. There's going to be the whole summer where Forest will feel they can get away with whatever they need to do. And I expect to see this kind of gather pace over the next few weeks and months, because there can't be any screams and shouts and protests from the stands, because we don't have any more home games left. But get your thoughts in on all of that. Very interesting article. I'll also leave the link for it in the comments down below if you want to have a read of it yourself. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. Don't forget to grab your beautiful Forest Hawaiian shirts for 15% off, all fully licensed. And we'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.